I'm Muzarbin Mizahazri, and this here is a video about my grandparent and 3 key historical events that shaped their lives and worldview. But before I get into that, I had to discuss how exactly I chose the grandparent I wanted to interview. So take a look at this here family tree. It's huge, it's messy. It's more like a family forest. My grandma on my mother's side had about 14 siblings, and honestly, like most of Malaysia or every other person in Malaysia is my relative. So I decided to focus on a different part of the family, my grandpa on my mother's side, Tok Wan. Tok Wan is a fascinating guy, honestly. He is willing to do anything for his grandkids. I mean, whether that be eat straight up Play-Doh or buy them exorbitant amounts of Transformers model kits. He's willing to do anything. So I wanted to understand how exactly he became that way and how his values were shaped by the events he lived through. The main thing that we discussed that affected his character the most was his journey with education and how that in turn was affected by 3 events. 1 being Malaysian independence from the British, 2 being the May 13th riots, and 3 being the new economic policy. So first, let's start off with his journey. Tok Wan started off in a Malay primary school and then transferred into English secondary school. One thing that he highlighted that was a key to his upbringing was the sense of racial harmony that was achieved in those integrated national stream schools.
National stream are mixed. There's not a three area that my friend are Chinese, Indian, and we have a close relationship. When they have their own celebration and raya, they come over, and they have the Deepavali and the Chinese New Year. I come over, and we share same thought, The sense of what you call racially dominated is none. We feel we are Malaysian. We feel like we are Malaysian.
Malays, Chinese, and Indians, the 3 main racial demographics of Malaysia, lived in harmony within those schools. They were celebrating Hari Raya, Chinese New Year, Deepavali together. However, this was affected by the introduction of racially segregated schools, which in turn was due to the divides between Malays, Chinese, and Indians in the socioeconomic status.
Well, the main behind it was because he's seen that there's a what you call socioeconomic imbalance, right?
Yes.
Between the 3 races. So you see the Malays are the poorer majority.
Yes.
And living in the rural areas, the main occupation is agriculture, fishermen, and so on. And the Chinese are urban based, right?
Now, what exactly caused this divide in socioeconomic status, which led to that segregation in the education system? Well, starts off with the British.
Yeah, I think more or less during the British colonial era, what they mean is to this one maybe what the British style is wherever they went to India and so on, to the other countries, Africa, it divide and rule, right?
Yes.
The British's main method for ruling was to divide and conquer in a method called socioeconomic demarcation, in which they gave each race their own part of the economic pie, resulting in the Malays being the worst class, living in mostly rural areas with only 2.4% business equity, whereas the Chinese were living in more urban areas with 34.4% business equity. This divide caused tension and ultimately resulted in the May 13th riots, which we'll discuss later.
Since independence, we are living in a very harmonious sort of society, right?
But the prevailing factor is after Malaysian independence, Tok Wan felt a sense of racial harmony and grew to appreciate it and value it. Now, the May 13th riots didn't directly affect Tok Wan as he was outside the areas that were affected in college.
Yeah, in terms of personally, it did affect Tok Wan because during the outbreak, Tok Wan was in campus.
But that sense of instability within his country and that racial inequality kind of spurred something within him and caused him to be more critical of his nation. And as a result of the May 13th incident, the new economic policy, or NEP, was established in 1970 by the late Prime Minister Tun Abdul Razak.
That's what I said earlier, because before the 1969, before the new economic policy, which was introduced in 1970, The problem of that is the so-called economic imbalance, especially
because the Malays were more rurally centered, and they did not have a large equity of the economy, right?
Right.
Okay. So
in an effort to A, eradicate poverty, and B, restructure the Malaysian society. This meant giving more money to the Bumi Putra, or Malays, and in turn redistributing the population into more integrated societies. But how exactly did this affect Tok Wan? As it happens to be, Tok Wan was just getting out of college as the new economic policy was introduced.
True.
So in fact, benefit to me is what you say is that, well, I was the more like beneficiary of the first economic policy because I just finished college in 1972.
Yeah.
And the NEP was started in the 70s. And the one was offered a job at what they call Urban Development Authority.
Yes.
Like URA in Singapore, Urban Renewal Authority.
Yeah.
So Malaysia, we have Urban Development Authority. So when I finished college at ITM, I got my diploma. I was offered as a technical assistant in town planning, and I got my first job as the first graduate from ITM. I got the first job with this UDA, with Urban Development Authority. We was set up, follow up to the NEP.
Okay.
So he got a job city planning and helping to restructure the society physically, building apartments and building more integrated housing. This in turn affected how he viewed the racial riots that happened and the new economic policy, giving him a more objective view and thus giving him a better understanding of what exactly his country needed.
Is that, and what I say now, the country slogan or keluarga Malaysia, okay?
Yeah.
The Malaysian family is towards integration, interracial communication, irrespective of racial income and status and so on. Should think as a Malaysian, irrespective of their religious background, ethnic background, languages and so on. Okay?
Yeah, everybody's Malaysian.
And now this is reflected in his views on what exactly Malaysia needs right now. He believes that we all need some more racial understanding, and we all need to understand each other better, whether that be learning each other's languages or simply making the effort to go out and say hi to each other. And all in all, Tok Wan is an understanding guy due to his upbringing and due to the fact he lived through those events and was able to have an objective view and understanding. Tok Wan at the end of the day is still an old guy. Some of his views are outdated, but his ideas on what Malaysia needs to achieve racial harmony are on point. His sentiment that we all need to understand each other is caused by the fact he lived through that era of racial harmony and lived to see what happened when that racial harmony was disturbed. All in all, he's a great guy, and thanks to his upbringing and the events he lived through, he's my grandpa. And I'm grateful to have him. Well, how does this affect me? Well, due to his pursuit of education and his understanding that Malaysia has its problems, he was able to go overseas and to study and bring his family along. This gave his kids a more whole view of the world and other cultures, including my mom. Now, my mom is the most understanding person you'll ever meet, and that's in part due to her multicultural upbringing. And that, of course, affects me and how she raised me. Now, I don't want to toot my own horn. I think I'm pretty understanding, and I go to an American school in Singapore. And that's in part due to his understanding personality and pursuit of education caused by those 3 historical events. Now I feel like talking my head off about all these old events and an old man and how it affects me. So I'm gonna end this now. And hopefully you understand my grandpa a bit more, because I sure do. Bye.